So in this video, I'm going to show you how to build a mining rig for Litecoin, Dogecoin, or any of those cryptocurrencies, and have it mounted on a piece of wood. Like you can see in the background, there are several that have been already built. So the first thing to do is with the motherboard, take it out here. Alright, so here is the motherboard. I just took it out. Make sure you peel off the plastic on here. You're going to want to make sure that you're not having it on the wood per se. So what you would need is you would need these guys. And I'll go ahead and post a link, you know, to this. So what you will want to do is you want to mark down all the positions that when you lay the motherboard down. So what I will do is for as far as for my configuration, I'm gonna have it lined up on the edge. And the reason I want to line it up on the edge is because the graphics cards are elevated. So what ends up happening is that elevated meaning that there's a piece that would push down here. So if it's not on the edge, then it's going to, you know, make the motherboard wobbly or just bent. So what I want to do is, since ideally you want to use probably a pencil, but since I don't have a pencil, I'm gonna mark the edges, or not edges, but the screw holes with this tool tip or drill tip or bit or whatever you call these things. And it doesn't have to be deep, just so I know where to drill. So you don't have to do it to all the holes, just 2 in the middle and the 4 around the edges to give the motherboard stability, basically. And if it wobbles a little bit, that's fine, as long as it doesn't wobble too far away. Okay, so now I can remove the motherboard, put it to the side on the static or anti-static thing. And what I will do is I'll go ahead and use a drill bit. Now, with the drill bit, you do need a power drill. You want to make sure that this is actually smaller than this. Otherwise, it will just become really loose, and your motherboard wouldn't actually stay on it. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and locate these little markings, and I'll drill in. Okay, so now I have the actual holes in here. Now what I will do is I'll go ahead and take these little guys here, and I'll stick it in. Now you can press really hard with your finger, but since I have a tool that does it for me, I might as well use this tool. So the tool looks like this, and it's kind of like a screwdriver, except the head is for this. So instead of having, you know, my thumbs get all you know, basically calloused up later on, I'll just use this. But essentially, if you don't have this device, you can buy one either at Fry's Electronics or order online. Basically, as long as you purchase one of those PC repair kits, it should come with one. But if not, you can use your thumb. But basically, you want to, you know, screw this thing into it. And so once you actually get it in, basically it's just the motion of the twisting motion, because these as you spin it, this thing will just pull it down. Now, if you're not able to get it in, what I would probably advise is get this tool, or you could try a having one size larger for the drill bit. So it looks like my these drill holes might have been a little bit too small, but so that's why I need to apply a little bit more force. Alright. 3 down, 3 more to go. Yeah, I'm glad I don't build furniture for a living, because I'm just not very good at it. So it's pretty clear that the drill piece I used might have been a little bit too small. Now to tighten some other ones. Now if it's already tight, don't keep squeezing it, because otherwise it's just gonna loosen the wood. So now, whew, as it's in there, I can then now place the motherboard on top of it and match the holes. Now, one thing I realized is I do not have laser precision, so not all the holes are going to match up, which is okay. So what I'll do is I'm just going to screw in 3 screws to just make sure that it's on there. But so find the holes that do match up and then screw 3 screws in there, or you can screw, I guess, more or less, probably not any less than 3, just because then it becomes, could become a little bit unstable if you move it around, which you're probably not going to, but all right. Make sure you use the washers, because the washers is gonna it separates the well, it keeps the hardware from getting damaged, but also sometimes these things, I guess, actually I've never tried it out, but I think it's always a good idea to use the washers so it doesn't conduct the actual screw or anything. Not that I think it matters in this case. Let's see what other screw hole lines up. This one kind of lines up. Yeah, I wouldn't advise screwing all of them in, just because since chances are it's probably not perfectly aligned. You don't want to force the force it and then end up warping or deforming the motherboard. So now this is in place and it's it's pretty stable. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start installing the components onto it. So here is a stick of RAM. I used the other stick on one of the other machines. And with RAM, I recommend Kingston, Corsair, Patriot, or PNY. So just match, this is the short end, this is the longer one, so just match it on the motherboard, and then push it down. Close these guys. And now I'll go ahead and install the CPU. So I'm going with the AMD Sempron because it's for the purpose of mining, you don't really need a fast CPU, and it's better to have a one of these because they're just more energy efficient. So when you open the CPU, you're gonna have the fan and the heatsink and the actual CPU itself. So with the actual CPU itself, find the golden tip here, and then find the triangle on the motherboard, and that's how you line up. And of course, you want to lift up this little hinge here, and then you shouldn't have to force it. It should just fall into place. If you're forcing it, then that means the size probably you have it in the wrong orientation. So now I'll close this hinge right here, and then I'll go ahead and install the fan and heatsink. So it doesn't matter if you put it this way or that way, but since the cable for the fan is over here, I mean the pins for the cable is over here, I'll put it this way. So hinge here, and then move this hinge. So basically you want to get the hinges to go into the hooks, and then after you get that, you push this down, and it should be solid. And then I'll plug in the cable for it. So on the motherboard, it should say CPU fan 1, CPU fan 2. Plug it into CPU fan 1. So now I have the memory or the RAM stick and also the CPU installed. Now the fun part, I'll get to install the GPUs. So I have the Sapphire Radeon R9 270X, but you can use the 270, 280, 280X, 290, 290X. I just found this one to be the most, I guess, bang for the buck. So here's one GPU. I'll go ahead and put this back in the box and close the box, and I'll, and then I'll go ahead and open the second GPU, which is the same thing. And the reason why I have 2 GPUs as opposed to 3 is because I don't want to do the whole PCIe riser cable and then have just a mess basically, and I don't want this to be in a crate or anything. So here are both of the graphics cards. So what I'll do is I'll peel off the plastic. And I'll go ahead and insert this into here. Pull this back, slide it right in there, and then lock it. And then the same thing with this one. And then lock it. So now I have the GPUs installed, and now time for the power supply. So here I have the Corsair 750 watts. Alright, so when I open this box, should be got this thing here, which is the actual power cord. So I'm gonna this out. And then here's the actual unit itself. The power supply unit, also known as the PSU. Also known as just a power supply. So what you want to do is you want to peel this little plastic thing off. And normally if you don't peel off when it's brand new, you're going to have a hard time later on. So I recommend just peeling it off. Some people like keeping all this stuff new, but I don't necessarily see the point of that. So what I'll do here to mount this onto here is I went to Home Depot and I purchased double-sided Velcro tape. So let me go ahead and locate that. So it looks like this, basically, stuck together, Velcro. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pair of scissors and I'm going to cut 2 pieces, one for each side of the PSU, because I'm going to mount that onto the wood. And honestly, it doesn't matter which side of the Velcro that you have it, but since my own convention was I want the soft side on the actual hardware component, I'm going to maintain that convention. Sometimes this double side or this tape thing on the Velcros can be a little bit tricky. Okay, there you go. So I'm going to put this on here. Can you see? Yeah. And then I'm going to do the same with the other side. And now I'll peel this side off. And now I can go ahead and mount it onto the board, the wood board, not the motherboard. So I will go ahead and just make sure it's straight, and bam. So now it's sturdy. So now got all these cables here, but the next thing I will probably want to do is put in the hard drive. So here's the hard drive, and you see, I think it's, as far as the stability of the structure, if you put it flat, it's more stable. But if you, this side creates a lot of heat, so the heat needs to be dissipated. Otherwise, it could reach temperatures of over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is it's not good for the hardware. So that's why I'm going to mount this vertically this way. And of course, I don't want to mount it this way because you got all this stuff here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount it the same way using the Velcro tape. I'm going to pull this apart and put it back together so it's not crooked. Do the same thing with this piece. And now I'm going to peel off the tape on the soft side because that's my convention. And basically I'm just lining it up to the edge of here. Now if you're not able to get a Velcro tape, which any Lowe's or Home Depot will have it, and get the industrial grade stuff. Don't get the kids craft ones at Staples or Office Depot. But if you're not able to get that, you can also get the industrial grade double-sided tape as well. Although I highly recommend and prefer the Velcro stuff. So I'm just going to peel this, which seems to be a task in itself. Alright. So now, make sure I brush everything off here. I can just go ahead and mount this here. And it's relatively sturdy. I won't be, moving around or anything. So now we hook up the power, the cables from the power supply to the rest of the components. So I'll start off. It's always a good idea to separate the cables so that way it's somewhat organized and it doesn't look like just a giant mess. So don't need this one. Do need this one. So basically I'm trying to find the PCIe cables because that's the one that goes with these guys. And then also the CPU cable, which goes in here. And of course, if you have zip ties, that also will help. Will be a great, asset for you to help organize everything. So these are the cables that I do not need. Just to let you know the cables I do need, the main one here, which I'm going to plug into here right now, actually. And this is for the power for the motherboard. And then this is the one for the CPU. Plug in here. And these are for the power power supply. From the power supply to the graphics cards or video cards or GPUs. And last but not least, this is the one for the hard drive, the SATA cable. Some people call it SATA, some people call it SATA, some people call it serial ATA. It's the same thing. So this is from the power supply, and then there's another cable that links up the hard drive to the motherboard. This is how this cable looks like. Let me take this off. So the end, that's a hook, that goes onto the hard drive. You see the hard drive? Yeah. And then the other end goes on the motherboard. Now it will say serial 1, 2, 3 and so forth, but plug into the one that says 1. Or you could say serial 3 underscore 1. Sorry, not serial, SATA. Meaning that this is SATA 3, it's the faster one compared to SATA 2 or the first one, SATA 1. So with all these extra cables here, I'm just gonna I guess I could tie it up. See, zip tie. and then that's basically it. And to turn on the motherboard, basically, or turn on your rig, you gotta make sure that the power supply is on 1, not 0 for on. And then you want to take a screwdriver, and you want to with this specific motherboard, and typically with motherboards, it will say something along the lines of PW or actually, I'll take a picture so that way you guys can actually see the pin. But basically, you would just go like that, and that'll boot up the system.